Welcome back to the Leroy Brown Talk Show. Today we're going to talk about local news along with college sports, and then we're going to go into barbecue. 3 dead and suspected killed in the Gilroy Garlic Music Festival. The suspect, identified as Santino William Lagan, was shot and killed by the police. I don't believe that someone like this deserves any notoriety or recognition, but it appears that this suspect was shooting somewhat randomly, and investigators had information on do not have any information at this time of a possible motive. One of those killed was a 6-year-old Stephen Romero, and was at the festival with his mother and grandmother, who were also injured in the shooting. A 13-year-old girl and a man in his 20s were also killed. Going on to military news, 2 U.S. service members were killed Monday in Afghanistan. No other information was provided in the short press release sent out Monday afternoon by the NATO's Resolution Support Headquarters, which oversees the Train, Advise, and Assistance mission in country. When asked whether 2 American service members were killed during the same operation, officials referred Military Times and the press release stating that they have nothing further to add. The Department of Defense policy requires the names of the service members killed in action to be withheld until 24 hours of the notification of the next of kin has been completed. Citing anonymous officials in the Associated Press reported that Afghan soldiers shot and killed the 2 U.S. troops in Kandahar. The Afghan soldier was wounded and is in custody, according to the officials. The 2 latest deaths bring the number of the U.S. troops killed in action in Afghanistan to this date to 12 this year, and there have been nearly 60 U.S. troops wounded in action so far this year. Moving on to college sports. The college football rankings came out. Clemson's going to stay where it is right now at number 1. And then you have Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Michigan, Florida, Texas, and number 10's Notre Dame. Notre Dame we'll get to in a second, but first I want to talk about Clemson. So Clemson plays this year starting August 29th at 8 p.m. They play Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's not much of a team. Texas A&M, they play the following week. Texas A&M, I think, could be an upset for Clemson. Then Clemson plays a no-name college like Syracuse, then a no-name college like Charlotte, then a non-important Tar Heel game, then a non-important Florida State game. Then they play another non-important Louisville game. Then they move on to another very boring Boston College game, but I think Boston College has the opportunity to upset them. Then they play Wofford. Then they play North Carolina State. Then they play Wake Forest. And then Clemson plays South Carolina. And they're going to play a South Carolina team that's been beat up all throughout the year, that has the hardest schedule under probably the worst head coach that they can possibly have. That's my personal opinion. I've said this, several times to different people when it comes to the Gamecocks. I think Steve Spurrier, with the schedule that the Gamecocks have now, I believe, if Steve Spurrier were coaching, he'd probably, get on the media outlets at ESPN and say, "Well, I think we got a pretty good chance, but we gotta work hard and see what we're gonna do this year." But Will Muschamp's not that kind of coach. Will Muschamp made a name for himself when he was coaching under Nick Saban, and then he went to Florida. He lost at Florida, got fired from Florida. Then the Gamecocks were, unfortunately, the school that picked him up. I don't think Notre Dame's going to stay in the top 10, and here's why. So Notre Dame plays Louisville, an ACC team, which, it's not that important. Then they play New Mexico, not a big game. Then they're going to play the Georgia Bulldogs, and I think Notre Dame's going to get handled in that game. Then they play Virginia. Then they play Bowling Green. Then they play the Trojans. Just like every year, the Trojans have no one in their conference. Then they play Michigan, and Michigan has no one in their conference other than Ohio State and Michigan State. But, this is on the Notre Dame schedule. Then Notre Dame plays Virginia Tech. They play Duke. They play Navy. I think Boston College beats Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame plays Stanford, and I think Stanford beats Notre Dame as well. Michigan's schedule, and Michigan right now is ranked at number 7. So here's the tough Michigan schedule. They start off the year playing Middle Tennessee. I wouldn't even know they were a school unless they were on the schedule. Then they play Army, and I think people are going to be surprised what Army does. Army since they've hired their new coach, they've beat Navy twice in a row. They won the President's Trophy last year and the year before that. I think Army might be a tough game. Then they play Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin beats Michigan. Michigan plays Rutgers. Rutgers, one of those schools again that, I'm just not getting any excited of. If it was basketball, I'd be, I think this was a great schedule. Then they play Iowa. Iowa's good in wrestling, not football. Michigan plays Illinois. Once again, not that big of a conference. Then they play Penn State. Penn State hasn't, in my book, been relevant since, Joe Paterno in the 80s and the 90s. So, I'm not going to get excited. Then they play, a boring game against Notre Dame. I think, Notre Dame probably beats Michigan. Then Michigan plays another boring ACC team, Maryland. Then they play Michigan State. They play Michigan versus Indiana, and then Ohio State. I think Ohio State beats Michigan. I just don't think it's going to be that spectacular. But we're going to move on to barbecue, and, I'm just going to zim through these. So, Texas barbecue came out of the top 10 places to go eat barbecue in Texas. Now, I actually grew up in Texas, and I used to work at this barbecue place called Spring Creek Barbecue, and, I started this job. I was a busboy. Then I went from busboy to doing dishes to working cash register, to fixing potatoes. Then I got to work on the pit crew, and then they send you to this Texas barbecue class that makes you a certified pit master, which I don't think there's really, anything too important there. But you do learn the arts of barbecue in the state of Texas, and moving to the southeast. When I have brisket, I actually get annoyed about having brisket down south, because most of the people in the south, when they cook a brisket, it's either super moist like a roast, or it's smoked to where it's like a leather shoe. And they don't really understand the art of cooking, brisket. And the way you cook a brisket, the further up you go in the state, you're going to have your tomato based or ketchup based with salt and pepper, seasoning, doused over it. And then the further, towards the west you go, you're going to get more of that mustard with salt and pepper. But, my honest opinion, I think the best brisket's just kosher salt, black seasoned pepper. You cake it on there. You smoke it for 12 hours. You make sure it's at 280 degrees at a 12-hour base. You take it out. It should have almost this char on the outside. And when you cut into it, you should have about probably 8 to 12 centimeters of a pink hue on the inside. And then it should still be moist, but not like roast moist. But, until people from the southeast start going to the Midwest and they experience what a true Texas brisket is, I just got to keep making it at my house. But anyway, back to this list. So, they have Truth Barbecue out of Brenham, Texas, ranked number 10. Then they got Eve's Maze Pit Barbecue at number 9, and that's in Wolforth, Texas. Then they have McIlwaite Crafts Meats in Austin, Texas. Then they have Corkscrew Barbecue in Spring, Texas. Tate Haas Chocolate Craftery in Tumble, Texas. Then we're moving down to the number 5, Louis Muller Barbecue in Taylor, Texas. Bodacious Barbecue in Longview, Texas. Cattle Neck Barbecue in Dallas, Texas. I've actually had their barbecue. It's pretty good. So then number 2 would be Franklin Barbecue in Austin, Texas. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I think everything that he does is great, but when it comes to brisket and when it comes to smoked sausage, Franklin Barbecue makes it the way Texas barbecue should be made. And I think the fact that they're ranked number 2 is just blasphemy. They should be ranked number 1. But number 1 is in Lexington, Texas, and it's Snow's Barbecue. I don't know anything about them, so I'm not going to say their barbecue's not good. But Frank's, if you're watching and you want to sponsor Leroy Brown, be sure to send me some free barbecue. Maybe a Frank's hat or a Frank's t-shirt. Southern Living also came out with the best barbecue spots in the Southeast. Number 1 is Southern Soul Barbecue in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Number 2 is in Lexington, North Carolina, named Lexington BBQ. Number 3 is Four Rivers Smokehouse in Winter Park, Florida. Number 4 is Dreamland Barbecue in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Number 5 is Max Barbecue. And I'm going to probably murder this. It's Scalituke, Oklahoma. Number 6 is Fox Bros Barbecue in Atlanta, Georgia. Number 7, I was just talking about Frank's Barbecue. Number 7 is Frank's Barbecue, again in Austin, Texas. Number 8 is Salt Lake Barbecue, Driftwood, Texas. Number 9 is Greenville, North Carolina, B's Barbecue. Number 10 is Central Barbecue in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, I really don't like it when Southern Living does these, these big names like this, because you take away from restaurants that I truly do believe are just great places. And the longer I've lived in South Carolina, I've got to, I've done the traditional South Carolina barbecue. And so I've gone to Shealy's. Shealy's has great barbecue. I wouldn't say they're in my top 10 of Southern pulled pork barbecue. Then I've gone to Heights. Heights is more of a mustard. If you're into mustard, Heights is a good place to go. But the best overall, like if you're going to go to the Daytona 500, Southern 500, and you're in the Darlington, Florence area, there's this restaurant. It's more of a hole in the wall. And you're not going to know it because it's in the small town called Lamar, South Carolina. And this place is, I believe I'm saying it right, it's Bernard's Cafe. And they have some of the best hash I've ever had in my life. And most of the barbecue in Carolina. So the further north you go, you have like liver hash. Further south you go, you have a boar's head hash. But, also the further south you go in mid-state, you have more of a mustard. And I know not everybody's a fan of the mustard sauce. But Bernard's Cafe has this vinegar sauce, and I swear to you, I'm not making this up. When I was a recruiter, I used to eat like 4 plates when I'd go there. It was that delicious. And you could literally just taste their sauce on your lips for like 3 days. If you're a sauce guy and a barbecue guy, Bernard's Cafe is the place to go. The other place that I really like is, there's this barbecue place that's in Aiken. And it's run by a family, and it's called Duke's Barbecue. And Duke's Barbecue, to me, their hash is really good. They have, my kids, whenever I get paid, the first thing they talk about is, Dad, let's go to Duke's Barbecue. Their mac and cheese is just like your grandma's mac and cheese. They got banana pudding that's just like my grandma's banana pudding. But if you go there, Duke's Barbecue makes you feel like a family when you go in there. I mean, they're just so polite. It's more of this open, place to eat, and you're not really segregated off into, private tables. You're sitting there with everybody else, and I could eat their barbecue all day long. I mean, I really could. And the guy who runs it now, his name's Christian, and his barbecue and the way that he treats you, the way that staff treats you, the way the rest of his family treats you, for me, it's not just about how good that barbecue is. It's about how much, if you're just coming to Aiken and you want to, stop in to see like the local barbecue, I would tell anybody to go to Aiken and go to, Duke's Barbecue, because it's more about, if you're going to be treated like family. That's like one of the shops that I went to. I needed a suit one time when I was running this company. And I hate going into big box places, and they just, they look at you and they're like, oh, this guy's not buying anything, or oh, this guy's not going to get anything nice. And you run into that a lot. And I went in this place, it's called Lionel Smith. And when I went into Lionel Smith, I told him exactly what I needed. I said, look, I got this business meeting. I got to have something called, I think it was called a dessert jacket. And then I needed a formal jacket, and then I needed a business meeting suit. And, for a guy who doesn't wear a lot of suits, I wear t-shirts, polos, jerseys all the time. But every once in a while, I gotta, kiss the bigwigs that, write me checks. So, I had to, dress the part. And I went in there and I said, look, I got military service boots. I have tennis shoes. I don't really have any dress boots other than cowboy boots. And, I'm not going to really wear any of my Luke Casey boots with, any of the outfits I have on. So I need a professional look. And he didn't ask me what my budget was. He just said, do you know what your neck size is? Do you know what this size is? And, I did give him a roundabout of where I wanted to stay. And I got everything, tailored there, him there for me. I picked it up like within 2 days. But they treated me like I belonged in that store instead of just looking at me with, oh, this guy's got a bunch of tattoos, he's got a beard on his face, And, in today's day and age, you'd be surprised just how far, when you make somebody feel like family versus, making them feel like they're just absolute garbage, how far that goes in my book. And, that goes back to restaurants, like Duke's BBQ. Duke's BBQ, you can go in there, and if you've never had hash, and you go in there and say, hey, I want to try something called hash, they're going to explain to you, this is what it's about. This is what it tastes like. This is what it should taste like. And, for everybody that's come into, that travels as much as I do, it's always nice to be able to look back and go, okay, well, if I go here, I'm not going to, look out of place. But I see a couple of you guys are commenting on the shirt. So the shirt says Sons of Democracy. It's a play on the Sons of Anarchy. If you like this shirt, you can go to allamericanunited.com and you can order one from them. It's a veteran-owned and operated company. I think they're also doing an MC. I don't know anything about that, but I think they're doing like a motorcycle club that's truly just, for veterans. And, that's enough about that. But if you guys are still interested, I think it's, let me check my schedule real quick. So on August 10th, we'll be at Tim's Harley Davidson doing a radio show with 92.9 The Soul Mine. And we'll be out there, and, we're going to have a couple of things to give out. Like, I believe we have a Georgia Bulldogs jersey. We now have the Clemson purple jersey to give a Clemson fan. I don't know, which one of you guys contacted them, but they contacted me. We ended up getting a Clemson purple jersey. And then we have a Carolina football signed by Steve Spurrier. I will must champ. But we have one signed by Steve Spurrier, Elliot, I think his name's Elliot Shaw, Leo Mangus. Anyway, it's the coaching staff from 2011. And then we have a game-used Carolina jersey we're going to try to put in the hands of a vet. So if you're a veteran and you like Clemson or you like Georgia or you like University of South Carolina, come out to Harley Davidson and hopefully you'll be the one that gets it. But also the other thing it comes out with coming to this Harley place. So I'm a Harley rider. I have a 2006 Harley Davidson Road King. I absolutely love it to death. And the thing about Harley riders is most of us stick onto our bikes forever. We're not going to try to get rid of our bikes. Our bikes are like our children. So the good thing though is, so Harley Davidson did its homework, and most of the 18-year-old to 30-year-old men don't want to ride cruisers anymore. They want to ride these street bikes, or the crotch rockets as they're called. So Harley Davidson came out with the Street Fighter that comes out, I think it's in the end of August. And the cool thing about the Street Fighter is the engine is a Porsche engine. And this thing's supposed to just fly. And the other thing they have coming out, oh man, what is it called? I think it's like the Pan American. It's a dirt bike, and this dirt bike, the last time I think Harley Davidson had a dirt bike motorcycle was back when they had AMF running them in the 60s and 70s. But they have a new one coming out too. And, that bike's supposed to be priced right around 10 grand to 12 grand. So, this bike's going to be in the wheelhouse of being affordable. And that's like I went to a Kawasaki place looking for a sponsorship there. And, one of the things that they were saying is most of their bikes are 20 to 30,000. They're just going for a dirt bike. a Harley Cruiser doesn't cost 20 grand. Get out of here. But anyway, keep tuning in to Leroy Brown Talk Show on 92.9 The Soul Mine, Mondays through Thursdays at 7. Be sure to call us at 803-650-0127 if you'd like to be featured on the show, or if you know anybody that would like to get in touch with a nonprofit. If you're a nonprofit and would like to come on to the show, we'll be glad to have you on our air. If you're an active duty service member or in the reserves of the National Guard, be sure to get clearance through your chain of command before coming on here and telling us something, because I don't want you to get in trouble, nor do I want to get in trouble. If you're a veteran or veteran service member who is about to be deployed or is deployed, and your kids are back here, there's this nonprofit, and I do want to do a quick shout out to them. It's called Operation Teammate. And Operation Teammate does so much good for veterans who are deployed, family members, and their kids that are going through the tough, hard times of being back here in the States while their mom or dad is deployed, or their mom and dad might have been killed in action, by boosting their morale. So if you'd like to know more about Operation Teammate, we're going to have them on our show in a couple of weeks, and hopefully there's going to be a lot of information that you guys can be like sponges and just soak up while we talk about it. Once again, go to www.929thesoulmine.com to listen to our podcast. Go to our Facebook page, Leroy Brown Talk Show, Instagram, Leroy Brown Talk Show, or give us a call, like I said earlier, at 803-650-0127. If you'd also like to sponsor us for the Leroy Brown Talk Show, I'm actually going to Jacksonville in a couple of weeks to do an interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and hopefully we'll be able to get some interviews done with some other staff from the University of South Carolina Gamecocks, along with Clemson, along with Georgia Tech and Georgia. And be sure to keep looking at who our guests are each week on the Facebook page. You guys have a great day, and tune in tomorrow.